Welcome to this episode of Blended, Blessed, and Always a Mess. I'm Aric.
And I'm Angie.
We are married with a ton of kids.
We have 6 kids total. He has 3 and I have 3.
My name's Hallie and I love riding horses.
I'm Lexi and I love agriculture.
My name's Carter and I love eating.
My name's Chase and I love lifting weights.
My name's Summer and I love spending my parents' money.
I'm Dane and I love baseball.
Our show is about our blended, blessed, and always a mess life. And our hope is if you find yourself in the same situation we are in, that by sharing our story, all the fun and all the mess, the challenges we are experiencing, it will give you some inspirations, laughs, and community, knowing you are not alone in this mess.
We appreciate you spending time with us. Let's dive in.
This episode of Blended, Blessed, and Always a Mess is sponsored by the children's book Feathers Matter. As our kids grow up, they face challenges in their life, and knowing their self-worth and their value is crucial to face the headwinds. Purchase this beautiful story to read to your kids and grandkids and start the conversation with them at a young age. They are worthy, they matter, and their feathers matter. You can find a link to order on our Blended, Blessed, alwaysamess.com page. Mention code #blessed for an autographed copy. Welcome to this week's episode of Blended, Blessed, and Always a Mess. And I should have done makeup. I feel like I'm starting to get to where I'm not tan.
Tanning bed.
Yeah, I'm starting to get like we haven't been to the lake or the beach.
A connection that does amazing spray tans?
Yes, I need to do that. And I would never think of it if we weren't videoing these now as well. So I look at it and you look really dark and nice. And
well, it's called foundation.
Okay, got it.
I can lend you mine if you would like to.
May have to try that next time. Congratulations on your big promotion this week.
I know. I'm so excited to share that I've been promoted to the director of our shipping department.
Yeah. And I have been promoted as well to director of mail carrier in the mail carrying department.
Yes. So we've really elevated ourselves. We have new roles and responsibilities on top of what we've already been doing. So I'm not sure it feels like a promotion, but we have new roles.
That's right. And so with the book coming out, thank you to everyone who has ordered so far. And if you want to order, Blended, Blessed, alwaysamess.com or on Amazon. But we've been filling orders. Angie does it?
I know. We're both actually OCD, so our office has been a disaster trying to figure out like the flow of all of this stuff because we have all the books. So it's not a like buy and it print as you go. So we have all the books. We're doing all of the shipping. And it's been, I actually have enjoyed this whole process. It's a surprise to me because it's almost been therapeutic to see the orders come in and be able to write special notes in the books if I know them and just work through that purpose and the pain. So that part's been awesome. But we did have to it occurred to me yesterday. I'm like, we got to do some different setup. This is like not working. I cannot stand our office looking like a disaster. And
it's the first thing you see when you walk in the house.
Yes.
Is our office. So it's like, I had to move it, switch things up a little bit.
But
and you had a great idea.
Yeah. Since we are actually videoing our podcast now, we have the podcasting recording rooms open. So I'm like, that is now going to be turned into our little shipping department.
Yes. So now we have the
now
old
I wish
studio.
it had a window.
I know. It's
but
now
you
shipping.
Can't have everything.
So yeah, it's been super exciting to see, I think for me this week, and I'm probably speaking for you, but can't wait to hear you go into it more, is just the excitement around seeing other people read the book and when they read it to their kids and things like that. It's so much and amazement.
Just looking back at the last week, there has been some highs and lows like you could imagine any week. And I have probably cried more this week, not because of pain, but because of just seeing the book actually out there and in kiddos' hands. I have a hard time actually describing what that feels like. Just like it's very, very hard to describe the depths of grief and how deep that pain is. There's actually no words. There's no words to how your insides and your heart and soul feel. Those words don't exist. But then on the flip side, seeing parents, like grown men and dads, read the book to all ages, kiddos, I'm back to like tears, and it's overwhelming, and I don't have words for it because, I mean, I could go back to Painful Beauty, but I see it. Like I mean, so much has happened this week. Like a little neighbor girl, Eva, wrote me like this super sweet note and drew this amazing picture of the Phoenix, Hallie.
Cool? Kids are drawing out of the book already.
Yes, and I've had videos of dads reading to their kiddos, of grandmas reading to their grandkiddos, of little kids sitting on a couch and looking at it. I've had videos of teenage boys reading it out loud. It just, I actually can't believe it. Like, I can't believe that I wrote that book in hell. Like, I feel like I was like in the lowest of lows and it flowed out. I can't believe, I mean, I look back at the last year and so many people said it's going to be a fog, and it's a complete fog, but I don't know how I did it. And that part, I'm going to get teary-eyed again.
No, you should, though, because it is such a powerful thing that this happened in so much pain.
It's just overwhelming because I do feel like that God is in the story, and that almost like takes your breath away. And that's very hard for me to process it. Like this morning, I went down to the shipping department. I couldn't sleep. It was like 5:30 and laid there for a little while. And I'm like, I need to mail out some books. And I go down there and I'm like, do my little process, getting them mailed out, wrote some notes to some specific people that had asked for that. And then I just start crying because I can't believe I'm sitting here shipping out my books. But the only reason why I wrote the book is because I lost Hallie.
Yeah.
And so it's like this high and low, and it's beautiful and it's painful, and I just I just never would have chosen this. So it's like overwhelming. Like you have all these people like loving the book and loving the illustrations and knowing that it's being read at daycares and talking about, like I posted the talking points for the book on our Facebook site.
Those are really powerful.
And it's been shared 28 times already. I just posted it yesterday. And so like, that's so, I can't believe it, but it all came from pain. It's so weird. It's just like, I don't know how to process all of that.
Yeah. Well, as I said to you yesterday, like, I'm super proud of you, and I don't know how you did it either. I don't know how you've done the entire year, and you've done it better than I've done it. You've done it better than anybody I would ever imagine, because you're such a fighter, and you just push through so strong-willed.
It's 11:11 right now. I just want to say that.
Make a wish. Make a wish at 11:11.
That's for you, Tina. She's an 11:11 girl.
Yeah, there you go. I've just been overwhelmed to see how the community, people we know, but people we don't know, are loving the book, sending it back to us. And that's been the most joyous part to me. And then to see, I've said this several times, maybe a few times this last week, some real joy in your face when you see those things, which, hasn't been a lot of that over the last 12 months. So it's interesting to see, again, something so painful than to occasionally cause you to smile and see some happiness in that pain.
I think for me, when I reflect back, I think the only way that I did all that is because I let go and I just let God. And we were talking about that this morning because I think Aric and I's conversation is like, he feels like I've found my why, and he's trying to figure out like what's his purpose, what's his why. And I just said, I think when you let go of everything, like I literally every day still, God, guide me. And I don't ask for anything. I'm not asking for anything specific. I'm just saying, help me, guide me. I think when you do that and you don't put any expectations out there, then you're just open to it, and you can let whatever happen flow. Like I have ideas just come to me in my head now of things to do in different ways to help other people out. And that's like my sole focus anymore. I just said it yesterday at the barn when I went to go see Phoenix. I'm like, all I want to do is I want to help young girls, women, anybody. I just want to help them. I don't know what that looks like, but that's all I want to do because I lost Hallie.
Mm-hmm. It's going to be an emotional
journey. I know. So I just think like having zero ask, beautiful things will happen. It just will, but you have to like not put any expectations on it. Or at least that's in my mind. When I reflect, that's what I think about is like, I'm not asking for anything specific. I want to help other people.
Well, you are doing that and super proud of you. And I think it was a great conversation that I needed to hear this morning because I do believe that you've done this a lot better than I have in a lot of ways, in the way that you have given it to God, like you've given total control and to listen to your, just God guide me and asking for nothing in return. I have failed. I mean, just be honest. And I failed at that. Like I've wanted to fix things, put things back together. We've talked about that. We've talked about how I've struggled for several months. And I'm hopeful that maybe this week is a turning point. Angie and I having some serious conversation. At the end of the day, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. I feel like there should be a higher purpose for what I'm doing, and I'm not doing anything like that. I've been in a bad place. I know that I'm not serving you. I'm not serving the kids well. I'm not even serving myself well. And the full transparency is I've been drinking too much. Call that out because I don't want to hurt my family in that way. And I want to be a healthier individual all the way around. And as we approach the year mark here in the next week, I feel like I have to really work hard to change some things because I'm not helping anyone.
Yeah.
I'm not helping anyone right now. You're helping so many people and you're just saying, God, you're not even asking for anything. I'm asking for so much and getting nothing in return. And self-sabotaging is a good word that you have said to me this week. And I just,
I think for you, what I see, and this was one of the conversations that we had is, and everybody handles grief and trauma. I mean, this is so traumatic, what happened and what we all experience. But I think we were sitting in the kitchen, we were talking about this. I think you hold on to what it was and you want that back and you want to fix it and you want to put all the pieces together.
100%.
And I'm more of like, you just have to accept that this is our life. And I think that's the difference where you feel like I'm further along in my healing is that I've just accepted it and I've let go. That's the letting go of control of like, okay, God, this is your will, be done. Like you thought I could carry this. I mean, I said this to Aric the other day because my back has been completely jacked up and shooting pains down my back. And I'm like getting up and still doing everything. And I'm like, well, I mean, I was kind of in an effort sort of attitude that morning. It was like, if God wants me to carry this, freaking bring it on then. Like apparently he thinks I can handle it. I have a lot to learn through this and bring it on. And I think I don't spend energy or space thinking about what it was. It's gone and we're never going to get that back. And so I more just like, okay, bring it on, God. Like I'll do whatever. That's where I'm at. And I'm not asking for anything. And I mean, because I hear you. I know you say you want to fix it and you're trying so hard to try to fix it. But I think you also want to hold on to.
You're right. It is
and you're measuring it. You're measuring if it's good, if it's based on or feels like what it was. And that's just gone. And we got to try to figure out. And the other thing I would say, especially like after we watched that movie After Death and just even some of the sermons recently in church, our mission here is really just to love people. It's really just to love people. And it doesn't have to be some big glamorous thing. It's more of just loving people in the suck, in the hard times, or if it's people you don't like, and I think when you do that, then beautiful things happen that you don't even, like you can't even imagine. I couldn't have imagined any of this.
Yeah.
It reminds me of, I saw this on a video the other day, and I'm switching the words a little bit to it, but Tim McGraw was in this, I don't know if it's off of a movie, but he was in this little reel on Instagram. And it was like 2 wolves are fighting. One is anger and darkness, and the other one is light and purpose. So which one wins? And the answer is the one that you feed. So which one are you feeding? And that's where, like, you have to keep reminding yourself of that. Like, where am I going? Where am I focusing my thoughts? What am I doing? And not trying to control everything, but just keep feeding the right wolf.
Yeah, one of my favorite authors, John Gordon, he has one. It's called. He talks about feed the positive dog, right? Because we're so negative.
Same thing.
Yeah, we tell each other negative stories all the time. I'm awful about that, and I don't feed my positive dog. I don't feed light and purpose. Right? I'm living in the anger and darkness right now, and it's killing me. It's killing everything. It feels like, and yeah, it's time to fix that. So I don't know if you're listening and you can relate to that, or you have any tips. I would love to hear it.
I see the struggle in you, like I do. I mean, can I share what you're upset with me about the other night?
Yeah. I mean, absolutely.
I mean, just talking about the negative story that you're telling yourself. Usually we go to bed at the same time, but for whatever reason, for 2 nights, Aric was downstairs. Like, you gamed with Dane one night, and then you were watching TV
with Carter or something the next night.
Carter the next night. So, like, I go to bed, no big deal. It's really never thought anything of it. And Aric is, like, upset that night with me that, like, I went to bed without telling him. And I mean, I say, like, well, I think I did say that. Like, I can't go into another room. Like, but it's out of character for him. And I could tell he was telling himself some negative story. I don't know what it was. That he was worked up, upset about something, but
I don't know.
And so those are things, like, we're talking through things. Like, I told him, I don't get mad. I'm not a fighter, but I could see that he's struggling. And so it's more around, like, how do you work through that? Like, I don't know how to support you through that, but I recognize it and I see it. And it's something that we have to navigate, of, like, the story that you're telling yourself.
Yeah.
And now you're probably saying, well, I'm not finding my why, so I'm not doing enough. You know what I mean? And it's like, sometimes your role is really just to love people.
Yeah.
That's it. And it doesn't have to be more than that. That's all God really asks us to do.
Yeah, I got to try to break it down in a simpler way. That's for sure. Because I'm, like, deep into the weeds, and it's not. I'm deep in the weeds, and it's not good. So time to get out of there. I need a big weed eater and start just chopping those down, finding my way back to something simple.
The world, I mean, that goes back to the viewpoint of the world of, like, the wolves. Is it the darkness or is it the light? And I think it's what you focus on. And there's a lot of darkness in the world, but there's so much light. Like, this week, there are so many amazing humans out there. This week I was at our headquarters, and the girl I work with, super sweet, special, like, hey, I have a gift for you. So I just felt like I shouldn't open it in the office. Sure. You just never know, right?
Yeah. Okay.
So I get in my car and I open it. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So if we post this video, I'm wearing the sweatshirt. I'm totally obsessed with it. But it's so simple and classy. And it says on it in small letters, I put it on my story this morning, but it says Mother of an Angel. And on the sleeve is a really tiny little charm that says H on it. It has a letter H on it. And the quality is insane, but it's so purposeful and intentional of the sweatshirt, because the story behind it is her sister started this company called Alexandra and Wells. And Wells is her beautiful son that passed away when he was only 2 days old. And she took that and turned it into purpose. So you have to go out there, and I'll put a link in our details of this episode, but she has such a beautiful, intentional, purposeful clothing line and jewelry that's designed for moms. Like, you could tell that she lost a child. And it's just beautiful. And I love this sweatshirt, but I love stories like that where people are really taking their pain. And if you go to the website, there's an about and their story, and you have to read their story. I was reading it this morning. It's just like chilling and so heartbreaking. Alexandra
And
Wells.
Okay.
But I'll put a link too. God's everywhere. Like, God's in everybody's story. I also sign that in the book sometimes. Like, God is in this story, and he's also in your story. And even if you don't feel it, because there's a lot of times I haven't felt it.
Yeah.
And you wonder why. Like, why did all this happen? Because your prayers don't get answered. And I think when we went to church last weekend, even that sermon was so powerful and resonated with us, and that's what it was about. Like,
some prayers get answered, some prayers do not. And why does God choose the certain prayers that he answers and other ones that he doesn't? But it's because he's in the story of both prayers, right? He just has a different plan for the prayers that he doesn't answer for us at certain times. And so very powerful. It definitely hit us. And of course, in that moment, you're just thinking to yourself, I remember all the prayers we prayed that Hallie would somehow miraculously survive, and it didn't happen. And then I feel like I've prayed so many prayers this year that haven't happened, and it's just been one thing after the other. But it did help a little bit to put in perspective that, we're part of a bigger story. 100 years from now, we're not going to matter.
No one's going to matter in 100 years from now. That was like I feel like the mic drop on that episode, on the episode
of church.
Yeah, on that particular sermon, because one thing, like, okay, so as you guys know, I'm not like a big Bible reader. Like, I feel like I'm just learning, and I'm 46 years old, but I feel like I'm just learning, and you forget things. You don't think about it that often, so it's not top of mind. But like, one of the things he said is like, he didn't answer his own son's prayers of like, take this cup from me when he was on the cross. He didn't take it from him. And then he says, well, your will be done. I mean, it's like, well, God, if he's not even going to answer his own kids' problem, like, he's not going to answer mine. You know what I mean? And so that's where I think it's going back to letting go of control. But at the end, he said it was really about stress and anxiety and worries and praying and like letting go. But what we worry about, and I remind myself of this every freaking day, and I remind so many other people of it too, it does not matter. Like, what you stress about in the long run, it doesn't matter. Nothing matters. And I think for me, it's easier, I guess, to pull myself out of that, because I effing know it.
Yeah.
I know the minute I knew my daughter was going to die that nothing else matters. Like, it's family, it's love, and God. I can stress about something. I know I have no control over that because I witnessed it firsthand, how horrible it can be.
Yeah.
So for me, it's a little bit easier to remind myself of that. Like, I don't feel like I worry about stuff. Now, am I anxious about it? Oh, hell yes. Like, there's a lot of scenarios that make me anxious. But like, I don't feel like that part is so overwhelming when it used to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But the thing that he said that I feel like was a mic drop is, we're not going to be here in 100 years. And we're not going to matter in 100 years or 1,000 years. But what would matter in 100 years is our relationship with God. Like, that really is the only thing that's going to matter 100 years from now, because then you're going to be in a place where you can't even imagine, right? And you're with your family. So that was just like a mic drop for me of like, aha, yeah, hashtag no shit. Like, why don't I think like that normally? You know what I mean?
My wife came out of church with a hashtag no shit. That's what I got from that.
Mic drop, hashtag no shit.
There was also, they did during the worship portion, Psalm 77. And we both looked at each other. We're like, oh yeah, sevens. Because obviously that's been our big number since Hallie passed. And so Psalm 77, if you're not familiar,
because I wasn't.
It says, I cried out to God for help. I cried out to God to hear me. When I was in distress, I sought the Lord. At night I stretched out untiring hands, and I would not be comforted. I remembered you, God, and I groaned. I meditated, and my spirit grew faint. You kept my eyes from closing. I was too troubled to speak. I thought about the former days, the years of long ago. I remembered my songs in the night. My heart meditated, and my spirit asked, and this was the important part, will the Lord reject forever? Will he never show his favor again? Has his unfailing love vanished forever? Has his promise failed for all time? Has God forgotten to be merciful? Has he in anger withheld his compassion? And then I thought, to this I will appeal, the years when the Most High stretched out his right hand. I will remember the deeds of the Lord. Yes, I will remember your miracles of long ago. I will consider all of your works and meditate on all of your mighty deeds. Your ways, God, are holy. What God is as great as our God?
And I think that is, which wolf are you feeding?
Yeah.
Are you feeding the ones of like, why me? Or are you feeding the, I'm going to trust God because of all of his miracles and his mighty ways?
And the difference has been Angie has trusted God and I have trusted the why me. So it's not been good. And that's, yeah. I mean, but that's just the honest truth.
Yeah. Well, it's hard. And I think you also can't beat yourself up over that either, because we have been through the worst possible thing on top of blending a family, on top of being newly married, on top of all these, raising kids, like all the stressors. So you do have to give yourself some grace. I think the flip to that is then you have to take action, right? Then you have to pull yourself out of it, but you do have to give yourself grace that this is so difficult and everyone is going to stumble.
Yeah. No, I mean, but I'm ready to pull out. Like, I want to get out of it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to keep doing this.
Right.
And so, yeah.
So how are you doing?
We covered that pretty shitty. I really am. If I could just be, I know this is going to a different part of where we're trying to go with the how are you doing question.
Right.
But just not good. I feel, and I feel so much just awfulness over not showing up for you and the kids the way that I want to. And my heart is just really like.
Do we need to dive into forgiveness too? Because that's also part of it, is like forgiving yourself.
Probably.
Like that's something else that is so hard for people to do. Is like, if you feel like that you have not shown up right, then you forgive yourself and then you adjust and you move on.
I know.
So.
I'm pretty hard on myself.
You really are.
I don't know.
You're harder on yourself than like what anybody else is. I did want to share something that I learned this week on my how are you doing question that also like is a high and a low, and it broke my heart in that one of our kiddos was having a rough week. So, we're all struggling, but one was just, I could tell, was not in a good mood and grumpy and your typical mom.
We've got a lot of teenagers. So
a lot of teenagers, and it's just when they get home, then you get all of their emotion and trying to figure out like what's bothering you, and nothing, I'm fine, I'm tired. And so I kept on because I could tell, even went to the extent of pausing the internet and like, okay, well, you can just help me package books then, and I'll wait for you to be ready to talk about it. Finally, whenever said child was ready to talk about it, it was like frustrated at parents, like 3 out of the 4 parents, basically, of like, you never ask me how I'm doing. And I'm like, it took me back for a second of like, how could said child think that about me? Because I'm always like, how did you sleep? How was your day at school? How was practice? All the things, but I haven't specifically said, how are you doing? And it's just one of those like aha moments, I guess, of like, wow, I haven't. And the other feedback that we received was everybody asked, how's your mom or dad doing? Or they don't ask me how I'm doing. And I'm like, yep.
Yeah.
I get it.
Definitely
and I
was
said,
a gut punch.
there's a lot of studies that show that kids get overlooked in this process. And something so simple of like, how are you doing, makes them feel seen. And we talked about that this morning too, of like making sure that our kiddos, through all of this messiness that we're dealing with, are seen.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be, your why doesn't have to be some big extravagant thing. It could be so simple of saying, how are you doing? So I challenge everybody in that if you haven't talked to a friend in a while, it doesn't have to be someone that's like struggling with loss or grief. They could just be having a bad day, and asking them, how are you doing, matters. it makes them feel like they matter and that they are seen and heard.
I love listening to you talk. You should be a life coach.
I mean, that might be one of my 2024 goals.
Great advice.
Might as well. My mom was like, I don't even know like where you came from. Like, I don't even know. I'm surprised you're my kid. And I'm like, well, Mom, let's see. I've been through a lot.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I think from all those experiences, you pull. Would I have been able to talk about this 20 years ago? 15 years ago? No, but I have struggled and I want to know about it. Like, I want to know how to get through it.
Yeah.
And I think that, unfortunately, the pain and the experiences and the mistakes I've made, all of that play into, okay, I'm going to learn from it and then I'm going to figure it out. What works and what makes me feel good. Speaking of what makes me feel good, though.
Yes. Tell me more.
I went to go see Phoenix this week, and I go every week. And so sometimes I just pop in and spend a little time with her, and sometimes I'll do a lesson, which I'm sure that poor trainer is probably like, dear God, this is teaching an old dog new tricks. First of all, I'm uncoordinated. I'm still scared of horses.
I like your new horse girl hat. That was sharp.
Oh, yeah, that was from Sherry.
That's sharp.
Hockman, which is, if you're in Columbia, which also was a very cool store to go into. But she's getting so big and she's so smart. And
You may ask yourself, how do you know if a horse is smart? Well, we've learned that as well.
I don't know. That's just what they tell me.
They've been saying that you can tell.
Said she easily retains everything that they're training her on. So then she's like, the trainer is showing me all the stuff that she's worked with her on. I'm just like, oh my gosh, like it's so beautiful. And I don't know, it's another thing that makes me cry is that I feel how horses can be so therapeutic. Like there's something about looking in their big old eyes, but just their sensitivity and being around them. Like I felt so good when I left, even though I laughed my ass off at myself when I was leaving, because she lunges her, which is like I would think of a lunge like a workout lunge.
Sure.
Like you're going to have her dive down, what is that? But it's not. It's you run them around in a circle basically, and they end up like trotting and running kind of fast, but you have to train them to do that.
I'd get dizzy.
Oh, I got dizzy, but she did it and made it look so simple. And she's like, now you try. I'm like, oh God, like this takes coordination. I got to hold the reins on one side, this little whip thing on the other side, and go in circles and make sure I stay in a certain spot. And I'm cracking up because I'm like, oh my God, she has to be like, what in the hell?
What the hell is this lady doing?
But Phoenix, the horse, not Hallie, the Phoenix in the children's book, is going to be my next children's book. Cool. I've already written it at a high level and mapped it all out of like what I want it to be about, and it is going to be about being brave, because this whole life is scary. Going through losing a child, scary. Facing a horse that you're scared of. I'm comfortable around her, but it still makes me scared. But I think it's fear, facing fear like head on. Everybody's fearful. Everybody. Doesn't matter if you look up to someone and they are a professional and they've accomplished a ton, that person still gets scared. The difference is whether or not it holds you back. So I almost, like a part of me was like, I don't know if I really want to do this lesson. But it was because I was scared. Because I'd rather just go and pet her and not challenge myself to learn more. But then when I left, I was like, oh my God, that felt so good. And it made my heart smile. So don't let fear stop you. Just take that next step forward. Even if you look like a complete idiot and you're dizzy trying to make this horse go in circles.
You've been very therapeutic for me today, if anything else.
Well, thank you.
I've enjoyed listening to all of your wisdom.
Well, I am also trying to figure out how I then take Phoenix, the horse, and allow her to be a gift for young girls that maybe, horses are expensive. I know.
Yeah,
I've spent 7 years paying for one with all of Hallie's horses. But I see the beauty in it. And so now I'm also, my head's spinning too, of how can I take that? But I will say they are doing another barrel race for Hallie. They're going to do it every year. First time they did it, we raised money for her scholarship fund. So they asked me about that this year, if we had anything particular. I'm like, I don't personally want to do, like, I don't have anything personally.
Sure.
Like, I would love to be able to help other people out. And so we're going to select like an equine therapy place locally that we'll give the proceeds to, but it's going to be different location, different date, September 22nd of next year in Fenton, Missouri.
Cool.
So I'm excited about that.
That is very exciting.
Phoenix will be there.
That's awesome. That'd be cool.
Yeah,
People
wouldn't that
come
be
and meet
cool?
Phoenix.
Yeah. So
Very cool. Well, that's all we have for this week. And I mean, for me, it was some powerful conversation. And again, we continue to thank you for purchasing the book. It's just such a powerful book. And so if you haven't got your copy, it is available on Amazon, Feathers Matter by Angie Phillips, or you can get it at our website, blendedblessedalwaysamess.com. Hope that you guys have a wonderful week. A happy Thanksgiving, as we'll hit Thanksgiving in a few days. And make sure that you spend some time to be thankful and grateful for what you do have. And maybe you can join me and learn to give up a little bit and just be thankful and grateful for what I have rather than what I've lost. It seems like the way forward. We appreciate you spending time with us. Have a wonderful week, and God bless.
Thank you for listening to Blended Blessed and Always a Mess. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and at blendedblessedalwaysamess.com.
Reach out to us on any of our social channels. We would love to hear from you. Have a great week.